So we don't need our own laptops for this one?
You certainly can. You can play. If you want to ahead of time, one of the things you need for Google Lit Trips is Google Earth. So if you just download Google Earth, you can get that if it's not already on your device. It might be depending on what you have or don't have. And then we can walk you through the rest.
So in apps?
Yeah, so if you check in apps, if Google Earth isn't there, go online on Chrome and just Google search Google Earth download. All right.
Yeah. Is it quicker?
No, I was just talking to myself.
The actual app of Google Earth? Or
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Don't run like my neighbors are my test. I know.
Is there a restroom close to this classroom?
Yeah.
I know.
She knows the building.
Sarah. I'm an English teacher here.
Okay.
So we'll be coming together. I love your thing.
Okay.
The prescription is bad. Like I just really often. Yeah.
But now I
Need to adjust them. Oh yeah. So this hit under like. That's not helpful. No. It's not. No. Defeats the purpose. They're cute though. So I'm very happy. Good. From what you can see. From what I can see. Good. I was just looking with my mother. This is my 10th here. Yeah.
And you want to say stress.
Yeah.
I actually changed my password.
This is it.
My password to remember, and then I'm like instead of
That's why it's helpful.
That's smart.
Melanie, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good to see you.
yes, you too.
I'm so excited. Yeah. Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah. I know.
Hey, Jerome.
Hey, I just sent you a message to a very short video that I show higher grade level people. It's
Okay.
3 minutes, but it uses the kite runner, one place mark, to just sort of say, here's the structure, here's kind of the pedagogy. So I think we ought to ask everybody to walk through London. But during playtime, maybe if some of the people are higher grade level, they might want to take 3 minutes to take a look at that video. You should have that link in the message.
Okay, perfect. I'll add it to the session descriptor. Thank you so much.
Okay. So it looks like you've got some people.
Yep. It's starting to fill up. We're just coming off of lunch, so they'll be coming in the next 5 to 6 minutes or so.
Great. I'll just hang out then.
All right. Thanks.
In fact, I think I'll get me a cup of coffee.
There you go. Perfect.
All right.
Is this too low? This too loud.
You joined. We're good. Yeah. Oh, good. Jerome's in. We've got applause on and Q&A, but nothing else. So we're seeing full.
Nate's not on yet.
That's the only downside. I really like it.
Yeah. Should be fun. You can watch it on YouTube. Oh boy.
Am I gonna be on YouTube?
Oh yeah. It's the founder of it.
Sure. I want to see. All right, last three.
Oh, you need to go to the Google Cultural Institute.
Yeah. Google Cultural what?
Institute. If you Google it, it literally provides street view of thousands of museums throughout the world. You can go into the Louvre, for instance, and start walking
That's what I was trying to do. I was like looking at pieces that I wasn't hitting like.
Yeah, they two separate projects, so it's a cultural institute that you're actually looking for. Yeah.
Can you figure out how I would open this then and if I am in the right place or not, or what did I do wrong?
Oh yeah. Wait a second. Hold on. We need to go to
Wrong thing, Jess.
download Google Earth. It's a full-on application, not a Chrome app.
Oh.
Sorry, I should have been clearer there.
So is it in the app store? Like,
Nope, it's completely on. If you go to google.com/earth/download, you'll get to it.
Yeah.
And you literally just have to agree to download. It'll download a package, you then install it, and then it'll be in your application. So it's not a web-based program, it's a local-based program. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, you went to that. Yep. And just hit agree.
Yeah.
And it'll come up. Thank you for going.
How's this?
I love it. That's great. With a little Wordle on it.
Yeah.
So is it done? Or is it?
Yep. And now we go into your downloads folder.
Yeah. I remember going there as a kid.
Install Google Earth.
Yeah. It is. His impression is so
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and then you have to go to your app.
Then it'll be in your
I wonder
application.
if
So if you go to Finder, Applications, Launch Google Earth.
I just, I'm
need to step
I'm
out.
regurgitating what I just
Here, now I
heard.
go to the Finder.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, just walk
Thank
through
you.
that. It'll ask you for your password at some point as well.
You go sit down.
Yeah. Like, it's very. That's too bad. It's such a nice. I'm here for 2 seconds. One of the things that we're
Oh, now I can. How is that? Yeah. Was it set up?
Eric, can I sit right here? Or is somebody?
You may be on camera, if that's okay with you. You'll be on YouTube for the rest of your life.
We're seeing a whole flood of people coming in.
Yeah. Lunch just ended, so they're firing in now. They're all excited.
Good. All right. Good to hear that.
All right, I've got everything. Let me just double check to make sure my screen share works on your end.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can test it here on the other direction too, I suppose, huh?
Yeah, so I should be sharing Google Earth with you right now. Do you see
I
Google
see
Earth?
it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, why don't you run me through the same thing in the other direction?
Sure. Let me stop that for a second. Okay, so now if you hover your mouse over to the left side of the Google Chat window, the top icon there with the green monitor and the white arrow is screen share.
Yep.
If you click on that,
And then
you get a choice of which screens you want to share, whether it's a Google tab, the entire screen, that kind of thing.
so I think I'll just show the desktop and start the screen share and then pop over to like that.
Perfect.
And one more thing here, just to make sure. I have Google Earth open, but mostly so I can hopefully follow along. And then when I go over to, do I have to stop that to?
Yeah, to go back to your face, yes.
So stopping it is just closing the window. Right.
Whoa, lost him.
Yeah. Oh, nothing.
You stopped the whole thing. That's all right.
What I wanted to do is I've got a couple of tabs open.
Okay.
And I wanted to go over here. Oh, that's preview. Back to Safari. And click on okay. Now, are you seeing that?
Yes, I see Welcome to Google Lit Trips website.
Okay, so I can just keep that sort of up in the background and pop through those. Okay, now I have to go back. I don't want to close that window because then I disconnect. Right?
Right. It says your screen sharing at the top, and if you click Stop Screen Sharing, it'll go back to your webcam.
There you go. Okay, that's what I did wrong. All right.
All right.
I'm good.
All right. I'll prep these guys, and then I'll introduce you. How's that?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Welcome to Google Lit Trips. One of the things that I wanted to chat with you about real quickly is that Google Lit Trips uses Google Earth. So it's a separate application. If you don't have it already on your laptop and would like to play along, you do have to download it first. So literally Google Earth download. It's a separate application. You download, you install it, and it goes in your local applications on your machine. This works best on the Macs. Chromebooks currently don't have a way to download Google Earth. With Google Tour Builder, which is a little bit different than Google Lit Trips, we can get into the differences there. They're kind of working in a 2D magic to make it work on Chromebooks. But for right now, this is more geared toward a full-on laptop. You know, like I said, there'll be more advances as we come along. Okay? So if you Google Earth download, it'll bring you to the page, which I believe is just google.com/earth/download, but instead of typing all that in, you can get to it.
Earth.google.com will work.
Earth.google.com will also work. Thank you, Jerome.
Okay.
Downloading that. What I'd like to do is kind of introduce you. I'm shocked and thrilled that we have this opportunity. I was up at Cave Summit in Canada last week presenting, and somebody had asked me in the hallways, had I heard of Google Lit Trips and have I ever used it? And I got to be honest, I've only scratched the surface. I haven't really touched it because by the time I got out of the classroom, that was when it was becoming pretty big. But what I thought was, okay, that seems like something a lot of people would be interested in. I'd like to start a session, so I started to go home and started creating things. When I got hit up by Jerome Burg here on Twitter that said, hey, if you have any questions, feel free to email. Well, so of course my mind started spinning and I said, well, maybe I should ask if he'd like to be part of the presentation, even though it's last minute. And the founder of Google Lit Trips, Jerome Burg, has agreed to join us today via live hangout. So he's going to tell you a little bit about the mission and kind of where this all developed from, where the website is, kind of everything that you need to know about it, the pedagogy. And again, this is completely live on air right now, so we may have people jumping in from all over the world, and it is also going to be archived on YouTube. So if you do miss something today, it'll be completely live on YouTube. You can go back and watch the entire hour-long session, or you can fast forward to the part you want, play it, rewind, play it again if you missed something. So that's the cool part about all of this. And just so you know, this is literally the first time I've ever done a live hangout with a speaker and screen sharing. And I know it's Jerome's as well. So if we kind of hit some snags, just bear with us. It's living in beta, right? All right. So Jerome, I'll let you take it away.
Well, why don't you do a little one of these things so I can just see smiling faces?
Sure, absolutely. So here's
Oh, yeah. So one thing I'm interested in is grade levels. How many primary grade level people am I looking at? Okay. Middle school? How about middle school? One? Okay. And high school? Okay. So I taught high school for 30 years before I sort of went on and did some work for Apple and other things. But I always dreaded the staff development the day before school opened, because, you know, I got my room to get together and all of that stuff. And so Eric assures me you're all here as volunteers. And what we decided to do is to share with you just kind of the look and feel of a Google Lit trip once I get done blabbing a little bit. And we've chosen an elementary title, but I do want to assure you that that what you'll see there is grade appropriate. It's like, this is what I would present for younger kids. And we'll have an opportunity later on to let those of you who are in middle school or high school kind of veer off into seeing, well, what's that look like in a high school class? So I'm looking forward to that. So how did this all get started? There's a group called Google Certified Teachers, and I happen to live and am right now in Danville, California, which is 30 miles east of San Francisco and about 30 some miles east of Google's headquarters in Mountain View. And when they started the Google Certified Teacher Program, or Teacher Academy programs, I was kind of like a guinea pig in the first session because I lived so close. The only people who were invited to that were people who lived within 50 miles because they wanted to see if it would work. And I was sitting there watching them. They brought in the Google Earth people, and they gave us a talk. And I thought Google Earth was basically so I could look up my house. Has anybody been on Google Earth before? Yeah. Yeah, I see a few hands. And the guy giving the presentation had a screen up there with a line on the Earth. And I asked, what's that? And he said, oh, that's the path line. You can draw path lines anywhere you want. And literally in 1 second, in 1 second, I thought, I wonder if I could track the travels of Candide, which is a book I taught for many years, repeatedly in high school. And so, being a little bit on the ADHD side, I went home and forgot about yard work and forgot about all the other things I'm supposed to be paying attention to, and dropped into, can I plot Candide's travels around the world? And then what can I do with it? What I didn't want is to simply say, here's where he traveled, sort of like many of us have maps at home that we may have marked. Oh, I've been here and I've been here and I've been here with thumbtacks. What I wanted to do was see if I could create an environment whereby when kids are reading a book, and we don't have the book in the lit trip for copyright and other issues, while they're reading it, could I build in just in time little educational resources? So when he's in South America at Rio de Janeiro, while they're reading that portion of the book, they could have already traveled the previous part of the trip. I'm talking with my hands even outside the camera here. Right when they get to that part, let's talk about whatever the historical or cultural references are that Voltaire might be wanting us to think about. And it kind of caught fire for some reason. And I've had like 3 million plus people visiting the site since then, and it's been keeping me busy in my actual retirement. So I kind of dedicate this thing to Mr. Ferdy K, who was my high school senior English teacher, and I have to tell you, I wasn't I wasn't a stupid person, but I wasn't particularly focused on school and caring about doing it all that well in school at the time. But that darn guy, he really figured out ways to grab my attention, and I was so engaged listening to this guy, and there's something about how he taught that just perked me up. And what it was is he wanted his student to discover what there is to care about literature, to engage us so that we began being driven by our own curiosity. Not curiosity as in, will this be on the test curiosity? Not, you know, but it was a kind of curiosity. That's really interesting. And the example I give typically is, and this will tell you that I am really a geezer. I never liked poetry, to tell you the truth, to that point. And he was going to go into his poetry unit. And so he began the unit by taking us to see Bob Dylan in Berkeley in 1966. Okay, you can do the math. I'll be 67 in this coming week. So we went there, and this guy, you know, he was folk music. I kind of had a tune for folk music, but it was weird folk music. And he sang, and we came back the next day, and we just tore apart one of Dylan's songs, you know, word by word, and imagery and metaphors, and reading between the lines, which was some mystery that I had been told by so many English teachers is where authors really write, between the lines, and I had no idea what that meant. To me, it meant, guess what the teacher wants me to say, rather than, did I discover it? And we felt so good that it was the beginning. I dedicated my whole teaching career to that moment in Mr. K's class. And you know what he did? That was Monday. Tuesday, he brought out T.S. Eliot, which I would never have even given a chance to read. And we tore apart a T.S. Eliot poem. And what he did was he started with from where the students were and built a bridge from where we were to the poetry, rather than saying, okay, we're jumping into 1492 and you're just going to have to be there, and you're just going to have to figure out why this is important. It's Vygotsky. Anybody familiar with Vygotsky's zone of proximal development? Teach to the place where the kids are ready to stretch to. And so that's kind of what I had in mind is, can I create a situation where kids can sort of be brought right into the middle of this story, rather than in a classroom holding the book in front of them looking at the story. I wanted them to be inside the old jalopy when they were reading Grapes of Wrath. And I wanted them to be walking around Boston when they were reading Make Way for Ducklings. And so you're there. Oh, I saw a cheer. Yeah, for Make Way for Ducklings. And so, I don't know, it got out of hand really quickly in terms of popularity. And thankfully, although Google, it's not a Google product, Google is very enthusiastic about it and promotes it. And suddenly I couldn't keep up with the demand. And I'm dedicated to making it relevant to kids by having the kids discover the relevance, not being told it's relevant. I was told that Shakespeare was relevant. And I hadn't, and Shakespeare is one of my favorites now, by the way, but I hadn't discovered the relevance, the real relevance. I still always thought the relevance was my English teacher told me it was relevant. So anyway, the mission, and I give it all away as a sort of paying it forward. You know that movie, Paying It Forward? That's even getting to be an old reference nowadays, but Paying It Forward to Mr. K. I'm not in the classroom anymore, and so what I'm doing now is thanking Mr. K, who has gone on to wherever people go on to when they pass away, and I'm passing it through teachers who want it to give to their students, hoping that somehow they can use it to get kids to discover engagement by discovering relevance. Does that kind of sound too corny? Yes, no? You can wave your hands or whatever, or wake up or whatever. Okay. Sorry, I get passionate about this. So I think that's all I need to say about that. I do ask that those of you in the grade levels that are certainly above the example that Eric and I are going to discuss, you know, you'll have some playtime, and I ask that you kind of look at something in your grade level that perhaps you might be interested in, or maybe colleagues back at the back at your sites. And by the way, this is your official earning of my invitation to you to directly communicate with me, and Eric will give you my contact information and to share that with anybody at your campus in case maybe you're a physics teacher, I don't know, but you've got an English teacher buddy or a history teacher buddy that might be interested in it, and you're certainly welcome to give my contact information to anybody that you think might find it interesting. So I think, Eric, the next thing we're going to do is take a quick look at the website. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so here's some other news. Google Earth is changing rapidly. Google Tour Builder is changing rapidly. And the website that you see today may disappear within weeks because we've been working on a new revised website. So what I'd like to do, if I can still pull this off, is I'm going to try and screen share the existing website. This is what you'll see if you go there, which you probably will later on in this session when you're given some playtime. And I'm gonna, forgive me, Eric,
No problem.
kind of helps me figure out how to do this, I think. Let's see, move this down, and okay. Now, are you seeing it, Eric?
Yes, we see welcome to Google Lit Trips now, yeah.
Okay, so this is the existing website, and one thing, as we've been preparing for this new website launch, you'll see that the front page is full of completely updated and revised lit trips. I think that I'm up to about 50 of the 70 that are completely revised and updated. And so one simple trick would be you can go up in here to sort of generic grade level pages, and let's just say we're going to go download a walk in London. I think that's the one we're going to do. You'd come over to the K5 section, and there's the K5 titles, and oh, there's a walk in London. And we click on that, and currently it takes you to a page dedicated entirely to that lit trip. That's going to change a bit. And what you'll see is a place to download this, and I'm going to click it, and that will take you to a survey. Now, this survey is going to change just a little bit in the new site, but essentially this is data collection for me so that I can apply for grants and awards and other things that can support the website. The program is 100% volunteer, including myself. And so I would ask you not to worry about this. It's just that like the data, the metrics that you have to provide for how your students are doing at your school. It's like, I'm an educator, a student, parent, or other. I'm just going to pick educator, and there's no other. And I kind of want to be able to say, oh, yeah, it's being used in public school, private schools, alternative schools, or people not associated with educational situations. And those are often consultants, conference speakers. I'll just say public school. This is going to be the most important thing on the new site, and it is the most important thing here. I'm just going to go blah, 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 blah. When I do gibberish like this, it's my way to remind myself to throw it out of the database. And a city, town, and a state, I'll just put XX, state, XX, and country, XX. And I kind of like to know how they're used. So some teachers are requiring them. Some teachers are offering them as optional activities. Sometimes students are using them at home because they know about it, and even though their teacher's not knowing about it, they go and they'll take the lit trip. Sometimes parents and guardians are trying to help their kids, and tutors and conference portfolios. So I'll just pick something there. And then how many have you downloaded in the past? How many lit trips have you downloaded in the past? And that kind of shows, will give me data on how many people like it. So I would say here, oh yeah, I'd like to download A Walk in London. And this says, please don't redistribute them, and please don't do that, because I don't have any idea what I can claim is the reach if people are redistributing them. So I'm asking you to agree. Now, I can say agree. That doesn't stop you from getting it. And part of the new survey is to eliminate the possibility of having to have poor guys like Eric say, I've got to fill out this survey 35 times because I'm loading up a lab, and so we're going to shorten that. So then we hit submit, and then it says, okay, go to this page here, and that takes you to a page where you would say, oh yeah, Walk in London, and I'd click this, and that would download it to my computer. So that's kind of the basics of the current website. I'll show you the new website is just going to look slightly different. We have a new logo. GLT Global Ed stands for Google Lit Trips Global Ed, but we're now an official 501c3 nonprofit. And although Google loves that I use this name, they don't want me incorporating with that, with the word Google. So now you see the same thing as over here. Here's the grade 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. There's some higher education titles. I'm starting a new series where kids can use the same process. Well, I went on a trip and I learned a whole bunch of stuff. Well, tell your own story using Google Earth. And there's one on literary locations there. So that's kind of where we're going. You won't go to an individual page for each title. You'll go to a list that looks like this at the bottom of the screen. And when you click on the title, it will pop open essentially the same information. A little blurb about the book, blurb about the person who developed it, and I was a co-developer on this one, so I'm in there as well. And this is the 912 page, but you'll see nothing changes over here, and you'll see that this one has 2 of them open, both of which I had something to do with. All right, I'm going to let go of that, and I don't think. Oh, the one thing I did want to show you is this. Go back to the home page. Hopefully. This is the reason why I need distribution documentation. This is where people are downloading the process. And right now, somebody at your place is online, and a couple of people here in California, one of whom is probably me, somebody in Fresno. And so it's got a pretty good global reach. I'm really proud to be just one guy with a good idea wanting to give away something to teachers who are on the front lines of what I like to call the noblest profession of all. And so I do hope that something that we do today is of interest. Now I'm going to try, if I can, to get back over here and say stop. Sharing. And now we're back. Is that?
Yeah, we see you again.
Okay. Now, there is one issue with the demonstration I think we're about to pop into for A Walk in London, and that is that if I try to drive it from out here in California, where it's going to be 98 degrees where I live today, there's a real drag in terms of I'll push a button and you'll see the button pushed several seconds later or something. And so I thought, rather than have me confuse everybody who might be watching this by driving it, Eric's going to try and drive the A Walk in London walkthrough so that you can kind of see how that works. And I'm not sure how this is going
to. Everything, right?
I'm just going to watch.
All right. Good. All right, so I'm going to try screen sharing with Google Earth. All right, and let me know, Jerome, when you see Google Earth pop up on your screen.
I see it.
You do? Okay, great. So just as a background, I went to Google Lit Trip's website. I went down to A Walk in London, which is a book that's available to download, filled out the survey, and grabbed what's called a KML file. The KML file is what you're downloading. It's sort of like an extension to Google Earth. Now, only the person who has the KML file then gets that portion of Google Earth. So for instance, if I'm teaching 15 kids, I need to make sure everybody on a device gets that KML file or they can't follow along. So for right now, you're probably not going to be able to follow along on your device unless you've already downloaded that. So you may just want to watch for a second, if that makes sense. Okay.
And Eric, there are a lot of ways that teachers use this. You know, there are schools where teacher may not have access to a lot of computers, and so they may either be sharing, you know, in small groups, which I kind of like, because in small groups, the kids can help each other at the points where one of them might be confused. And a lot of them are using just presentation, whole class presentation with projectors.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially looking at a Google Lit Trip or even creating one yourself, I think it makes more sense to be in a collaborative group than it does to be one-on-one. So that's a good point. Okay, so after I downloaded that KML, you'll see under Places, I now have this A Walk in London, which is the Google Lit Trip that I downloaded. If I click on it, and we'll wait a second. Jerome, do you get to see the outline?
I'm seeing a white box where I'm hoping there's content showing on your screen.
Yes, we see the content where it shows the book and basically what it's about, and then your logo underneath where it says it was developed by, and it goes down through everything. And that's true of all Google Lit Trips, correct?
Yes. Now, what I just did, Eric, is I'm actually looking at Google Earth live on mine, so I can, while I'm waiting for it to show up on my screen, I'm actually looking on my own, so I can. You tell me what you're seeing, and I'll make sure I'm seeing that.
Okay.
In my own copy of Google Earth.
All right. Yeah. So I just clicked on the very first thing that kind of.
So. Go ahead.
Did you want me to start with the very first stop on the tour then?
Oh, yeah. So you want me to walk you through it? Okay. I'm sorry. So you're seeing what is essentially the title page, which shows the copy of the book. And I always like to have a link to the author. Are you guys a Common Core state?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I like to do in Common Core, which is really nice with Google Lit Trips, because much of it is historical and geographical, is also given some informational reading. So right up front, there's a link to, you know, Salvador Rubino's homepage or some biography page about him. The business, giving credit to the person, Karen Arrington, who developed this one by herself. And then down here where, you know, a little bit lower, where there's a little paragraph, Google Lit Trips sources are subject to restrictions. You're welcome to redistribute, as in load up a lab without having to fill out the survey 30 times. But what I'd like is just ask for permission so that I can add, say, 30 to my metrics or something like that.
Sure.
And then reporting broken links. This only works on computers that happen to be configured to open up an email, which isn't all the computers in schools, of course, but it works enough so that, say that picture of that book cover disappears because where I'm getting it from on the internet, they changed their organization somehow. People who click on this and do get a mail will get a message that identifies in the subject line the name of the trip, the name of the place mark where the broken link was, and the version number. And that way I can more quickly get in and fix any issues with broken links, which are becoming less and less frequent because I'm archiving a lot of these things in a place that I know won't move. Okay, so the next one, if you wouldn't mind, Eric, if you click on the very next one, click here for basic navigation tips.
Yep.
And this, for a long time, was the difficult part. Google Earth is not all that intuitive, but essentially, there's just two things you need to do. One is, because A Walk in London is a relatively contemporary one, it's great to show the 3D buildings, because then we can walk down the street and we can see the tall buildings, perhaps that the ducklings had to walk by in their, they're walking around Boston. So in this one, really the first column just says really to turn on or turn off 3D buildings. And it's in the layers. And Eric, can you make sure the layers thing in the left-hand column is showing?
Yep, and we've already checked off 3D buildings, so we're good.
Perfect. Okay, and then you do that and everything will be cool. Then it's the important way to me to drive the thing is to do 4 steps. You will see, as you're seeing already, a whole bunch of place marks in the left-hand column. What you're not seeing is the little place mark preview excerpt. I've learned how to get rid of that, so it'll be the same thing as you're seeing on the left-hand column without seeing the preview thing. The first thing is make sure everything's checked, and you can do that by checking next to the globe where it says A Walk in London. Now the whole map shows. Then there is the name of the place mark, and it's in blue text. And so what you do is you want to make sure everything's showing first. Then you want to fly. And you don't want the pop-up window covering the screen when you fly, because part of the experience is watching the movement from one location to the other. And so basically it says fly first by double-clicking on whatever the icon is. And in the listed example, it's a yellow pushpin. They're all different kinds in the Walk in London. That will fly you, and then when you click on a typical place mark or whatever the name of the place mark is, that'll show the pop-up for that window. So that's kind of neat for kids. Once you walk through that, you'll see it's way easier to do than it is for me to talk about doing. So, everybody cool on that? And the last thing it says is make sure you close this window before you fly to the next place, because it'll still block the window. So, Eric, you're going to close that window?
Yep.
And we're going to fly to Big Ben. So remember, you're going to click the icon first.
Right. Everybody got their seatbelts on? All right.
And watch this, because it's very cool. So a lot of people think we're mapping things, but what I'm trying to do is put you in the middle of it. Oh, now I see one thing is, Eric, you've got all those little pictures and icons.
Yes, I do. Let me get rid of those.
So one of the things in that step was to unclick everything, then click the 3. So now you see, it's like we're not almost not looking at a map. We're like hovering over this place, and you can see the Tower of Big Ben, and you can see Big Ben, the name there. And that yellow path is the path that I drew that represents the movement from one place to another. Now let's take a look at the pop-up window for Big Ben. And I see the boxes up on your screen. And so what you'll see is Karen Arrington, who is also the co-author of the Armadillo from Amarillo that we just developed a couple of months ago and presented to the Texas Library Association. She's taken a lot of the photographs. So there's a picture. Now here's a new trick that I'm also kind of adding to all of these as I revise them, is if you click on that picture of Big Ben, it will take you to a large picture. That's where it really is on the internet. And then I just will, I don't know if I want to close that. No, I don't close that. I just want to come back over here. And this is a 9-minute movie. Now, you can't do everything that we have here. These are all resources. They're not lesson plans that you tell kids, go and do all of this. But this is some guy giving us a tour all the way up inside Big Ben, which I think is pretty cool. And then down here, there's another link. And if you'll click on the Interactive Big Ben link.
Sure.
This is one of those things that's sort of grade level appropriate. There's a picture of Big Ben, and when I drag my mouse over it, I'm up at the top at the windows. All of a sudden, I get little pop-ups explaining all of this stuff. So it's kind of a, you know, little kid's version of interactivity. Are you seeing that?
We're not getting the interactive picture right now. We're just seeing a white space on the left and all the text on the right.
Oh.
It could be an internet connection issue or something to that effect, though.
Okay. Well, you know, there you go. I'm going to close it. If it ever showed up, you know, you guess I don't have to trust. You're going to have to trust me. When I hover over the line just below the clock, I get a thing that tells me what the inscription is in Latin and then in English. Oh Lord, save our Queen Victoria the First. Okay, so go back to. We'll just fly to St. James Park if you don't mind. You won't. Now watch the screen. I think it's really cool that you get the sense that you are, as a student, moving from one location to the next.
All right, hang on. You're going to have to restart Google Earth, I think.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's not you. Trust me. It was something.
Well, you know, for you know your participants, I hope you do understand that driving something of this kind of bandwidth across the country and having a lot of people on at the same time can cause these kinds of grease. But when you're doing it on one computer by yourself, or your kids are, you won't run into that.
Right.
So just let me know where you are. Are you still looking at a white screen?
We just jumped from Big Ben. We're going to try and fly. Here we go. We're heading to St. James Park now.
Oh, okay. And you see the fly from one location?
Yes.
It almost keeps you geographically contextualized. So, oh yeah, that's, I've never been to London, but now I see relationships between one place and another. And this one just has a picture that Karen also took in the lake there. And now my absolute favorite one, and this is a big bandwidth thing, is the Buckingham Palace. So if you will fly to Buckingham Palace, hopefully.
See if we see the Queen.
You'll see the buildings are 3D, and just let me know when you seem to be there.
Yep, we're just over the monument in front of Buckingham Palace now.
Okay, and if you open that window, and I hope you see, there's a picture showing the marching into the palace, which I think, you know, the changing of the guards, and I think that's mentioned in the book at that point. You see, what I don't want to be is Spark Notes. I don't want to be Cliff Notes. I don't want to be telling kids what they need to know. I want to be offering them this, you know, multiple ways to become engaged in not only the story, but marinating in the culture and the history and the geography and all of that, sort of all simultaneously. There is a video down here that actually shows, it's 7 minutes long, the changing of the guards. But better than that is the 360-degree photograph of 4 rooms. Let's go inside. Even if you go to Buckingham Palace, you rarely get an opportunity to be invited inside. So keep your fingers crossed on this one. If you open that one up. Does it say it's loading?
It looks like it's stalling. I'm going to try and open it in Google Chrome just in case that works a little bit better. Yeah, it's loading now.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we're in the grand staircase looking around.
Okay. Are you looking at the ceiling? What do you see?
Heading right down the grand staircase, it says.
Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put your arrow right in the middle of the picture anywhere and just drag any direction you want. And be careful, you could get seasick if you want. You can also use your up and down arrows to slow it down. But we are at the top of the staircase, and we can look in any direction, floor to ceiling. And we get a sense of a little bit of opulence going on here, and the kids can ooh and ah. Are you able to see this, Eric?
Yeah, we're looking at the dome on the ceiling right now.
Now, every once in a while, you might see, let's see if I can, you might see a little indicator. Let me get to the dome of the ceiling. Somewhere there, oh yeah, the dome of the ceiling. You see a little eye in a circle?
Yep.
Clicking on that gives you a little bit of story of the dome of the ceiling. So whenever you see one of those things, you get a little more information about it. Now, if you look down at the bottom, you don't need to click these other ones because it does consume a lot of bandwidth, but you'll notice at the very bottom left-hand side, we're in one of 4 rooms. And so you can choose however you want to share this with the kids. But a pretty cool thing for kids who have never seen this kind of, royal presence and opulence and, historic places to actually get to go inside. So I'm just going to fly quickly to Trafalgar Square. You might want to close that window just so you don't have that bandwidth being consumed.
Go back to where we're with you. Okay. All right.
And in that you'll notice it may take a little while for it all to come into focus. Eric, you might point out in the very lower right-hand corner, the little circle that should be turning blue. In the very bottom of the Google Earth window, there's a circle.
Okay, yep.
Mine is still blue and a little bit white. That means that it's still loading, which means it may come into sharper focus and there may be more buildings popping up and all of that sort of thing. You don't need to click the link here, but I typically like to have, let's go find out something interesting about this place while we're reading about it in our little book. So all of those links many of those links are to informational reading kinds of things. I'll fly to Covent Garden, and there's a nice indoor picture, and you don't need to do this, but again, the same thing. You could click on that picture to see a giant picture, and you could click on the link to get the history of Covent Garden. And again, I try to find links that are somewhat grade appropriate. Not inappropriate, but fits what I expect. On St. Paul's Cathedral, there's another virtual tour you can take of the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral when you get to that part of the book. Bank of England monument to the Tower of London and the Thames River. Let's just quickly fly from one to the other. You can pop up the window if you want, and you'll see that there's basically the same kind of pedagogical content. I'm not summarizing now with elementary kids, and I did note that several of your elementary kids. Sometimes the next level of Google Lit Trips is you have your own kids build these things and submit them for publication. And that's quite a challenge because you have to learn a little bit of how all this works. And with kids, they're not doing the same kind of a lit trip. They may be showing what they've learned, or they may, for little kids who are in their sort of developing basic literacy stages, having a summary of what the chapter or what that part of the book is about is really an admirable standard. I don't want teachers doing that because that tells kids what we're hoping that kids can figure out how to do themselves. And so with student generated lit trips, frequently you will see the kids attempting to summarize. This is what happened in this part of the story, and it's perfectly appropriate in a student program. In fact, you will note on both websites, the new and the old one, that the student ones are identified as being created by students. And that's really code to you to say, don't expect the same kind of teaching resources. These are kids that are not trying to teach it. They're trying to show that they've learned something as they, sometimes the learning is as they built it. And what's really nice is, well, you have to have maybe one discussion starter, perhaps. And I guess I didn't mention that, but there are generally discussion starters that are not right and wrong answers. They are things to think about. I'm looking at the one for Bank of England. It's how do British coins and bills compare to the money we use in our country? And that's just something that if they wanted to, they could sort of spend some time looking at coins or comparing the value of coins. I was in Europe in March, and boy, was that a good time to be there because the euro wasn't killing the dollar at the time. So, you know, kids knowing that, oh, money's not the same everywhere, and the money looks different, and blah blah, whatever you want to talk about. I'm flying now to the monument, and that has a game in it. Play the Great Fire of London game. Well, you know, things that the kids can go to and go, oh, I was playing a game, but doggone it, I just learned something about the very place we read about in our book. I will leave that to you to explore as you like. And the Tower of London, I don't know if, I think I was in college before I realized that the Tower of London wasn't a tower.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I got there, I couldn't believe it. I kept thinking I'd see a big tower.
Yeah. And so there's a link at the bottom. Watch some videos to learn more about the tower. So everything tends to want to be supplementary to reading the book. And I want to go cross-curricular. I want to go cross-cultural. I want to make sure that there's both informational reading, if possible, and comparative reading. Comparing the information in reading to the fiction of a story. And something fell out of my head, I was going to say, as I tried to correct that last sentence. It'll pop up. So I'm just going to go to the next to the last one, which is the Thames River. And this is something that I sort of frequently try to do. On the Thames, if you pop that up, you'll see a photograph that it was virtually taken from the same position that I've locked this view in Google Earth into.
Oh, yeah, wow.
And again, that picture can be blown up so that kids can see. How big do you think that Ferris wheel is? Look around. What are some of the things you recognize? That's kind of a big boat there over on the right. But it doesn't seem very big compared to that big Ferris wheel. We can talk about that. There are some videos of Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee that show hundreds of boats, thousands of boats going down the Thames River, and you can talk about whatever you like. The last thing looks like an open folder that says click to view the entire thing. And what's really in there is the path lines. So you never need to click on the path lines, but if you click on that open folder, then it backs out again and shows you everywhere we've been, sort of one view. An awful lot of what we do kind of is based on how movies work. You might have noticed that movies generally start with some sort of a long shot, like, well, here's an airplane view of Manhattan, and then it goes into a medium shot. Oh, we close in on an apartment building. Then we close in on a window, looking through the window, and there's a happy husband and wife sitting at the table getting ready for a day that, lo and behold, they have no idea what surprises lay ahead of them. And then the movie gets into all those surprises, and then they quite frequently back out of the story at the end to sort of say, okay, here's the, we're leaving these people where they are, and we're backing out, and then we're going to go outside and get back to our lives. So that's kind of a quick overview of this particular trip.
That's great. Thank you, Jerome.
Oh, it's my pleasure.